What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's game week 47 here on SORARE NBA. I'm going to run you through my lineups and some tips that I've got for this coming game week. I'm also going to run you through the prize structures that we're going to be running come the NBA playoffs in our Swingman SORARE Society mini league. If you haven't joined that, there will be a link for it in the description. But nonetheless, let's get on with the video. Let's go. Right then, so as you've probably seen from the title, I can't believe how this happened. As you can see, my rare champion team didn't hit a reward this week, despite we got some pretty good scores from Edwards, Gordon, even Nemhard coming in sort of big for his L10. Booker, maybe not so. RJ Barrett really let us down here. Fell ill on the second game, so didn't improve on the 26, which he needed to. And also, on our limited champion side of things, we're looking at sort of an Embiid 50, which is low for him, a Morant 42, which is low for him. And then we had a Thompson, Paul, and Eubanks, all 40 plus. No one got less than 40 this week, and we still didn't hit a reward, primarily in limited champion, primarily because of how stacked it was on these low-end guys picking up big points this week and people not playing them in underdog and playing them in champion. I think this is one of those fluke game weeks, so if you had a big score like me but didn't win anything, don't be too sort of adverse to it. It just does happen sometimes. Anyway, let me run you through what we're going to be doing for the playoffs and the prizes around it. Right, so there's 134 of you currently in here as well. I know a lot more of you are watching these videos, so if you haven't joined it, there's a link in the description. Get involved. We're going to be running our prizes for the playoffs, and let me run you through what we're going to be doing. So like, as you can see here, there's 8 current game weeks that are currently scheduled for the slate on the NBA playoffs. Now, I'm partnering up with SORARE to be able to give away some cards for whoever wins limited contender each week during the playoffs. I'm going to try and do it where the cards get progressively better. They're not going to be really like $1 cards. They're going to be like $5, $10 cards each time. So it's going to be cards that will be able to help your gallery, or you can sell on and swap them out and try and get some cards that you want to get, or just sell them and take the ETH. So all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning these cards here, we're going to give them one away each week for whoever wins limited contender. So if you ever want to check it as well, all you do is you'd come over to the Swingman SORARE Society. You would change the competition to limited contender, and then whoever is top spot for that week, I will contact them, or they can contact me in the DMs, and we'll get the prizes sorted. Each week when I do my SORARE videos here on this channel, I'll be giving away, I'll let you know who the prize is going to be beforehand and what will be up for grabs that particular week. You can always follow me as well on Twitter at George_St. or at Twitter at SwingmanPod here. All the links for it will be in the description down below, so get involved in it in that manner. The link to join the league is also in the description below. Anyway, let's jump on and get into my lineups for this game week in SORARE NBA. Right then, so for common pickup, as ever, if I do win any of the limited cards from this competition, I'll be giving it away to one of you guys as well. So all you have to do to enter is be sub to the channel, like the video, and leave your SORARE handle in the comments down below. I also would like to know, from the East and the Western Conference, who are the 2 teams you think are going to make it out of the play-in tournament? You don't have to leave it, but throw it in the comments if so. Who am I picking in the common pickup tournament, you might ask? And let's run through it. In this competition, we're going to run through Giannis Antetokounmpo as our MVP. Back-to-backs are the only concern with him here, but I've got him on a +10 now, so I'm going to run him through for this division. Jason Tatum at 49 and Jimmy Butler at 44. I think they're both good picks this week for MVPs, but I can fit them in to a pickup lineup with the 2 cheaper options that I've got. I like Jimmy Butler playing the Philadelphia 76ers in that second leg. And with the Mavs, this whole thing currently going on, I'm not sure if they're going to play guys like Dorian Finney-Smith as well, but they're going to potentially be shutting down Luka and Kyrie. At 18, he's really low. He's coming off the back of a really good game. And that also allows me to play Kendrick Nunn, who I think the Wizards are now, they're pretty much content that they're not going to be making the play-ins. I think they're 4 games behind. I'm not sure. I don't think they're mathematically out yet, but they're all but out. I don't think they're going to risk playing Bradley Beal and Porzingis for these few games. They're probably going to shut them down. Maybe not Porzingis, but definitely Bradley Beal. And as such, Kendrick Nunn's getting a bit more of an increased role recently in terms of coming off the bench and getting a bit more usage. He was a first quarter. He played the first quarter the other day for like 5 minutes or so, and then obviously plays towards the back end of it. So an L10 of 6, I'm going to take a gamble on him for this. So this is my lineup. If I do win a card, I'll be giving it away. Make sure that everything is in the description, in the comments down below. Leave your SORARE handle and make sure you're subbed to the channel. Limited contender then. This can go one of 2 ways as well. So the current lineup I've got was Killian Hayes, primarily because there's scope that he'll just get loads more usage at the moment, and they'll just try and run some of these guys out just to see what they can do towards the back end of this season. They're going to still try and be losing these games to try it. They're going to come last. They've got like 15 wins or whatever it is this season. So they're not really in danger of losing out on that bottom spot anyway. just 28, 2 games. I don't really mind it. Jordan Poole's got 1 game, but it's against OKC. I know Wiggins potentially is coming back. I don't think he'll be back for the OKC game, but if there is scope that they're going to give one of Steph or Clay a rest, it could be now. I don't think they will, because the Lakers are close to them. They're trying to get into that 5th seed. I think they're going to try and jiggle it about a bit more. So, and in any case, I still like Jordan Poole at 28. It's just the 1 game is obviously a bit shaky. Dylan Brooks at 26, again, bang average sort of L10 for what he should be. I'd like him to be in the lower 20s, high teens, but it's what it is for him. Jared Vanderbilt at 19 is quite low, but he's not been very good recently for the Lakers in terms of one on the floor and also on SORARE. It's just not sort of gelling at the moment for him points wise, but 19 is low enough that I'll take a gamble, especially with them playing the Jazz. I always like having players going back to them, playing against teams that they played for before. And last but not least, it's Juan Toscano Anderson. Can you believe it? I really can't. At an L10 and 9, he's got the game against the OKC Thunder. The Jazz are in 12th right now. They're not going to make it. They might try and fall below the Blazers and try and just secure another bottom seeder. But I would see a 9, again, playing for the Lakers again, but at 9, it's fine to play in contender to allow this. The thing I'd like to know is, would you rather play Killian Hayes and Dylan Brooks, or play Nikola Vucevic and Doug McDermott? Because Doug McDermott will more than likely see minutes in that second rotation for the Spurs. There is chances, obviously, that he gets more than that. And an L10 of 17 is a decent gamble for it. And also that means I can then play Nikola Vucevic with a +10 I've got on him now at the moment as well. 37's quite high, but I do like the game against the Hawks. And if the Bucks sit players like Giannis and players like Brook Lopez in that game, then he is a bit more sort of tangible. And the Bulls are still trying to win because they want to get ahead of the Raptors for that 9th seed and potentially the Hawks for the 8th seed. Do you know what? Actually, for this, I've probably just talked myself into it. I'm going to run with Vucevic and McDermott, but let me know if you think I should play Dylan Brooks and Killian Hayes instead.
Just a quick shout out. A lot of you haven't subbed who are watching these videos. It would really help me out. If you like this content, you're appreciating it, please do hit that sub button. It would help me out more than you can imagine. Back with the video.
Right then, my limited champion team this week, I'm actually really confident in it. I went and picked up some guys for my limited champion for the first time in a little while, actually. And the reason I didn't do it last week was because I didn't like the options for that particular week, but also going forward. Whereas this week, it was a bit different. The 2 guys that I picked up to help make this team, I liked them for this week, but also for the playoffs and the future, because I think they're not sort of in and out guys for maybe 1 week. You hold them for 15 and then they become useful again. These guys will be useful in different competitions at different points throughout this season and also next, in my opinion. So Joel Embiid, MVP, going to run with him. I like that there is a chance, obviously, he sits one of these games again. It's a bit like what Jokic is doing currently at the moment as well, in terms of there's no need to risk them necessarily right before the playoffs. Ja Morant, obviously, is a guy I've had in my gallery as well for a long time to partner up alongside him in this lineup. I like him at 43. The Grizzlies, are they still realistically pushing? That's to be deciphered. I think they've secured the 2nd seed. They're not really going to get the 1st. I don't think the Kings are going to take the 2nd seed away from them. I think with Ja Morant being out for a little while, they probably want to still get him some minutes under him and in his tank ready for the playoffs. So I do think he'll be playing, but I think it will be restricted minutes. So 43 is high for him, but I don't mind it this week, especially with a game against the Blazers, who I could see the Grizzlies absolutely blowing out. The 2 guys I picked up this week were Darius Garland, who I got for some ETH and an Emmanuel Quickly, and also an Aaron Gordon that I paid a little bit more than market average because I wanted the one with the particular boost on him. Now, both these guys are low L10s for what they should be getting. Darius Garland, particularly against 2 games against the Magic at 33, I think is really good. Aaron Gordon, 24, I think is really good for the Rockets game in particular. But I also like them because I do like Denver and Cleveland going into the playoffs. And I think both these guys will have good minutes in the playoffs, good usage rates in the playoffs, and there's scope for them to score well as well. So I'm going to run Darius Garland and Aaron Gordon. And then Drew Eubanks at 20. Again, he's not projecting massively high, but there's definitely scope for him to double his L10. And in that case, I'm going to run with him. Even though last week where I got 40 from the 3 other guys and then Ja Morant and Joel Embiid let me down, essentially, there is still scope that could happen again. But I'm going to run with it. I think this is a strong lineup for Limited Champion this week. And fingers crossed, I hit big in it. Limited no cap. I've not even built a team, so I'm just going to throw this together now. I don't think Bradley Beal will play in any of these games, so I'm going to leave him out. Tyrese Maxey, Franz Wagner, Jabari Smith Jr., Lou Dort, and we'll put Tobias Harris in here instead. It's not a good lineup. I'm not going to go out and spend big money on some high-end limited cards that I'm not going to particularly use after this limited cap goes away. I think next week it's limited under 23s. So people like Jabari Smith Jr., I think Lou Dort, I don't think, is Lou Dort under? Yeah, Lou Dort's 23. I thought he was 24. I've got Killian Hayes. I've got a few guys like that I can play in the limited under 23s. And I like that as a competition for next year. It's similar to what the football side does. But I'm not going to go out, spend big on a limited no cap that I don't really want the cards going forward for anyway, especially this back end of the season. I've got my MVP in Joel Embiid and Ja Morant. I've got that side sort of covered. So I don't really need to see, and I've got one from the East and one from the West. So I'm not going to go out and spend big money on this one particular competition for that 1 week. So I'll run this lineup. Who knows? Oh, actually, I definitely know this will not hit a reward. I can guarantee that. But limited champion and contender, I'm mildly confident. Right then, onto the rare side of things. Rare underdog. We actually did all right last week. We just slightly missed out, primarily because we sold our Kevin Knoxes and some of the likes like that. Again, if this was a permanent competition, I would love it, and I would definitely get involved in sort of holding some of the cards all year that can have these moments where they come big into the rotations. But unfortunately, because it is just a seasonal thing, it comes for 2 weeks every 12 weeks. It isn't something that necessarily appeals to me this year, and especially at this late stage in the season. So I'm going to run with what I've got. Ish Smith at 4. He did get some minutes against the Phoenix. He did get some minutes against the Phoenix Suns. There is scope again that he might get it again if Jamal Murray sits a game, or if they sit Bruce Brown or someone else of that same ilk. Usman Garubu, he's got minutes again, but I think he failed to do anything in both games. So again, these are the sort of players that you have to buy for these competitions. I don't really want to spend a tenner on someone like him and then him not get anything for me in rare underdog anyway, and then you're stuck with them until the next rare underdog is the way I personally see it. But I've got him. I'm going to play him. I won him, so I'm going to do it like that. JaVale McGee, I think he's come back into the lineup recently for the Mavs. One, they wanted some height when they were playing, and they were just trying different things with Luka and Kyrie because they were losing every game known that they could possibly do. But also, I think because the Kings are coming up here, he's back into the rotation. I like him for this particular game. And at an L10 and 9, he could definitely go into the 20s. So yeah, that's Ish Smith, Usman Garubu, JaVale McGee. Caleb Martin and Gary Harris are the two sort of big acquisitions for rare underdog that we've got here. I say acquisitions, I didn't buy them, I've had them in my galleries. Caleb Martin at L10 of 18. If Jimmy Butler sits one of these games for extended minutes, or Kevin Love does, then there's scope for him to beat an L10 of 18. He can get in the 30s. He's shown it before when he used to get a higher usage rate, minutes rate, but since they signed Kevin Love, he's sort of gone a bit down in the pecking order. And the same with Gary Harris, really. An L10 of 20 is too high for him. He's probably going to get sort of low 10s, high 20s, but I'm not going to go out and buy people. There is scope. I could pick like a Caruso, but then I can't even extend anyone here. So I'm going to roll Gary Harris anyway, and that'll be my rare underdog. Rare contender. Now, again, I'm mildly confident about this. Kendrick Nunn, like I've mentioned before on Common Pickup, I really like this week with Bradley Beal sitting out. The Wizards are sort of now just sort of not tanking to the extent, but they're not going to run any of their main guys out there. You're going to see Corey Kispert getting high usage rates. I think Kendrick Nunn will see maybe 15 minutes across the course of these two games. So hopefully from an L10 of 6, he'll do quite well. This all depends on Cam Reddish's health. He has been active, but I think he's not playing. I think they're just doing it so the Blazers are doing it so they meet the minimum amount required on the benches. I don't think he's been risked with his back. There's a chance, because a few of the guys else have been questionable, I'm hoping he plays. If he does, at an L10 13, I really, really think he's a solid pick this week. If he gets minutes, it's just if he's healthy and plays. This game against the Spurs and the Grizzlies, 13 is so low for a Cam Reddish again. And I remember when he had this is where he was around this low L10 mark, and then he hit 340. He hit these 340-ish point games. And that's where I could see happening again this week. But it's all dependent on him playing. If he doesn't play, I'll have to completely change this lineup. Isaiah Rivers is there as well. An L10 and 20 is quite low for him. For the Pistons, I think he's projecting high 20s, low 30s. And then this means I can play a Jaren Jackson Jr., who I think they're going to obliterate the Blazers. I know I've just said Cam Reddish is good at an L10 and 13, but it's different horses for courses in that regard. And then also I can play an Okongwu. If I don't do this, I can play Malcolm Brogdon and then change Cam Reddish to Caruso, which I don't hate as well, because I do like Malcolm Brogdon in these games, especially if Jaylen Brown sits the game against Philly. I do like Malcolm Brogdon in this one. Caruso's coming off the back of a few really high-scoring games. there is again scope that he can get in the 30s and the 20s. It all depends on what the Bulls do in these sort of games right now. But as long as if I hear Cam Reddish is going to be playing, I'm going to be rolling out with this lineup here. Let me change Malcolm Brogdon back to Okongwu, because I like Okongwu's game against the Bulls and the Wizards anyway. And then my rare champion lineup, right? So for this, again, both my champion lineups, I'm really actually quite confident in this week, which is the thing that's probably going to end up not coming true. Is how it always goes. But if Jaylen Brown, he's questionable at the moment. We will find out, I think, if he's going to play or not. If he's not going to play, I'll switch him out for Jimmy Butler. I just quite like the idea because I've got like a Sixers stack, a Suns stack, and then a Denver Nuggets role player, essentially, of what we've got here. I like the look of this lineup more, but Jimmy Butler, again, I'm fine with playing MVP because I do like him for that Philly game and also the Detroit game. They've got enough of a gap between the two for him to play both. I think this lineup looks ridiculously strong. This is my issue. Rare champion, you have to hit every single one for it to win. And I do think that all of these can hit. If I run you through it, Jimmy Butler, an L10 of 44 is high, but I do think he's got scope to get in the 60s against the Sixers. My reasons for it: the Heat are 7th right now. They're going to want to try and get the 6th seed so they avoid the play-ins. So they're going to be hunting down these wins regardless. And they definitely don't want to lose games so that they fall into that 8th seed and lose the home court in the play-in. So because of that, Jimmy Butler is going to put on good performances. And like I've said, I always like a player playing against an old team. And Jimmy likes playing against Philly a lot. Marcus Smart at 25 is too low. There is chances that obviously the Celtics chop and change people and they rest guys, but 25 for him is too low. I could play Trendon Watford, but I do prefer Marcus Smart for them reasons. I just think he's too low at 25. Devin Booker at 41 is where you'd sort of want him now. So he's not an MVP-esque number, but he still is quite high. The Suns aren't in danger, I would say, of losing the 4th seed in that home court. But the Clippers are only 2 games behind them, so they can't afford to lose games. And as such, this game against the Spurs, I can see the Suns absolutely obliterating the Spurs. And then also Denver is a big game for them. They're going to want to see how they match up against the Nuggets. So I think they'll play at a full-strength roster just to sort of go one game before the playoffs and see how it goes anyway. I like Devin Booker a lot for these series, especially the game against the Spurs. Depends when KD is in these games as well, but Booker at 41, I'm happy with. I did recently pick up a DeAndre Ayton as well, and I do like him a lot at an L10 of 29 for that game against the Spurs. And with the Nuggets, if they do rest Jokic in that game, I really like DeAndre Ayton a lot. And I've mentioned Aaron Gordon before this week. He's one of the sort of quote-unquote sort of big impact players that you will have. A lot of people will be running Aaron Gordon this week because I think he's projecting 7 or 8 above his L10. That game against the Rockets is really big. And if Jokic sits a game, Aaron Gordon's usage rate will increase very well. But even if Jokic doesn't sit a game, Gordon normally plays quite well off Jokic anyway, so it's not the end of the world. And also one final shout out, if you haven't joined yet, make sure you are joining our Swingman SORARE Society League ahead of the playoffs for all of the prizes that we've mentioned in Limited Contender that we're going to be running during the playoffs. And yeah, I mean, just get involved across it. These are the game weeks of what we're going to be involved in. The link for it will be in the description. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll be answering your questions on Twitter and across in the comments down below. So make sure you leave them if you have any questions about SORARE this week and or the playoffs coming. The latest episode of the Swingman podcast did just drop earlier this morning. There will be a link for it in the description down below, but you'll also see it probably like here, or if I move my mic, here in a moment. So yeah, thank you for watching and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.